So the control part that I just showed you is once you've got it all together, it's like set and forget. The fridge is going to turn on automatically. Nobody has to be home. I showed you if you have to force the fridge on because maybe you've gotten too many days of doom and gloom in a row, or like I said, you've had friends over and they're going to get another beer, and if you have to, with that mechanical timer, you can crank, give me an hour, and it just simply times itself out. It is not going to, continue to run and run and run, So now I want to talk about the differences of the refrigerators. Now, one guy, and I think it's under Solar Fridge, is what his little YouTube was about. And he bought a fridge from Sears, United States. Canada cannot order things from Sears in the United States. So I found a fridge unbelievably similar to his. And it was a 3.1 cubic. It was a very, very small fridge. That one there is a 4.3, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a little bit bigger. And the problem with that fridge was the separate door type of fridge and freezer idea. Once the compressor turns off, it continues to draw power. And that's because it's got the frost-free idea in there. The fridge that I just showed you is not frost-free. Now, because of the way I run my fridge, it's turning off every night. So I don't have to thaw my fridge every couple of nights. It does it every night. And the little drip tray that's underneath it, I've never had to dump it. I don't know why, but you could stick a small sponge in there and just pull it out and, wring out the sponge every week or two, but I've never had to do that. I've never found water on the floor or anything like that. So the thing is those frost-free fridges, it's like on a timer. It will run for so long, then it goes into this frost-free mode, and you literally have elements that are turning on to get rid of that frost on your fins, on your evaporator, and it draws power. So that thing there would draw somewhere close to 100 watts when the compressor was running, and it would still draw 80 watts, and it was the elements that were turned on. So what happened was we ended up with a sunny week, and a full week of sun. And I go for my quart of milk, and it's so cold that it almost hurts your teeth because I keep it close to zero, right? I'm in the summertime, I've got this fridge set as cold as I can get it without freezing things. And then near the end of the week, again in the morning, I get off work, I'm working a midnight shift, I get home, and I go for another drink of milk, and why is it not as cold? I didn't have the thermometer back then to monitor this, and then I had an H&V guy explain it to me, and he explained me the difference between a frost-free fridge and one that you have to thaw yourself. You have to defrost yourself, and it was that gall darn element. So what was happening is the end of the day would happen. This thing is in frost-free mode, and it's like having a heater turned on in your fridge, and it ended the day that way. So my fridge really isn't as cold as it was the other days. So that's when I got rid of that fridge. I got this one here. I'm way happier. Yeah, it might use a little bit extra watts, but who cares? I'm not taxing my batteries. The way I got that thing set up is only on higher voltage does it fire, and it disconnects itself automatically when the voltage starts to drop. Now, when you have a brand new battery bank, you might want that range set a little bit higher. You might not want to knock it down to 13.6, because 13.6 is a lot it'll run all night because your batteries are new. But as the years go by, your battery bank, after you put a couple of 100-watt load for an hour or so, it's going to show its true colors of where it actually resides, where it operates. So that's why these type of charge controllers, my battery bank is starting to drop a little bit. So you just simply lower that cutoff point. So instead of turning off at 13.4, you're going to tell it turn off at 13.3 because it's a much older battery bank. 13.2, 13, you know what I mean? So that's how you do it. That's how you can refrigerate using excess power only. Now, I've got another very interesting thing about the difference of those types of fridges. I noticed that the type of fridge that I have, the freezer wants to give its cold up to the fridge. Now, it's a fridge that I want, not a freezer. And that's all I've ever wanted. I wanted a nice, cold fridge. And the difference there between the two was, and it's summertime, wintertime. In the summertime, I could buy a pound of burger, thaw, put it into the freezer compartment, and it would end up freezing my burger. Now, it's not as rock hard as a good freeze would be because it's being turned off every night. But it would freeze it raw, almost rock hard. Whereas in the winter time, because 90% of my fridge is outside anyway, the fridge is only turning on maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and it might not turn on ever again because the fridge is outside. It's winter. So the freezer, the tubes that are filled with your Freon, is not on as often in the wintertime. So the freezer would not freeze, you see, using the double door. Even using the double door, it would not freeze. But in the wintertime, in the summertime, it would freeze because the fridge is trying to run, right? It's 80 degrees outside. So it's running all the time, and that's why things would freeze. So this fridge here that I'm running, the freezer always wants to give its cold up to the fridge, and that's what I'm after. I'm after refrigeration. This summer, my new project is going to be controlling another circuit that is going to run a chest freezer. And guess where it's going? It's going outside. The whole thing is going outside. But it'll be a controlled 120-volt circuit. So with that, I hope you've just found that little bit informative. Again, pass it on, press like, subscribe, and any solar friends that you got or you think you can kind of set them in the right direction. Again, this is just my 2 cents. What works for me might not work for everybody. I live in Canada, and this is the way to go. I've got to talk to you about your batteries and cycling them. And you can only cycle a lead-acid battery so many times, and the deeper the cycle, the worse it is. And the longer that it's left in that discharge state, doesn't matter if it's a full discharge or even a partial discharge. If you were to cycle a lead-acid battery, let's say 10%, and you kick it in a corner for 3-4 days, that battery will never be the same. You have now lost that forever. So that's why it's important that I'm going to have to discuss lead-acid batteries a little bit. And in a nutshell, briefly, you have a copper plate, and it's protected by a layer of lead. The only difference between an automotive battery and a deep cycle battery is that that layer of lead is a little bit thicker. And that's why they don't like the big amp jump, like starting a car using a deep cycle. It's because that extra layer of lead is not allowing the jump through the electrolyte to the plate. So what happens is now I'm going to show you how I mistreat a battery. I've taken my Minn Kota electric trolling motor, I've trolled all day with it, and now I'm going to kick it in a corner for 3 days without it seeing a charge. What happens is that as the specific gravity drops, and that goes along with your voltage, so as the voltage drops or the specific gravity of your acid drops, the plates have now allowed themselves to be attacked. A fully charged battery repels all that. But as you discharge a battery, you are now allowing your plates to be attacked. And once the plate is being attacked by the acid, it turns to fur or sulfate. And you can never reverse that. You cannot turn fur back into copper. You cannot turn that sulfation back into copper. So you end up with less and less plate to work with. And that is the death of a lead-acid battery. And in my episodes, as I talk about batteries or battery banks, it will always be the lead-acid battery. I use flooded because you can slam them and you can boil them and they will just simply gaze off. Whereas sealed lead-acid batteries have no way of getting rid of that extra. So that's why I've always gone with the flooded battery. So hopefully I've said enough there. I will touch on this again and again in my future videos, and I can explain it again and again, and hopefully it becomes clear to you. But deliberately knocking your batteries down, you don't do it. Just don't do it.